When it comes to misconceptions about motorcycle maintenance, oil is right at the top of the list. The viscosity of the oil, the blend of additives, and the frequency of replacement have all been debated time and time again by hundreds of thousands of dedicated forum users, bike night attendees, and armchair mechanics. And this will continue to happen forever and ever in an endless loop, even long after the Earth's supply of fossil fuels runs dry and the entire global population starts driving EVs and wearing monochromatic jumpsuits that are freshly ironed by their AI butlers. Oil is the lifeblood of an engine, and for some reason, it is the personality of a bunch of dudes on the internet as well. The first oil-related myth that we must discuss is the myth of the oil change interval. Old petrol heads seem to be entirely convinced that an oil change interval longer than 2,000 miles is part of a massive global conspiracy that exists for the purpose of tricking riders into blowing up their engines, requiring costly replacement just after their bike exits the warranty period. This is the equivalent of saying you should reboot your smartphone every time you check Instagram. Yes, super short oil change intervals used to dramatically increase the lifespan of an engine. But motorcycle engines also used to have wooden frames and exposed fire. We've come a long way as a species. Back when short oil change intervals were basically mandatory, motorcycles were powered by rickety, air-cooled, oil-burning, oil-leaking engines with loose tolerances, and motorcycle oil was basically raw petroleum with no additives. Back then, engines ran hotter, looser, and dirtier, and oil would degrade faster than a pair of NBT riding pants when an Instagram street squid crashes his S1000 on the highway. Today's synthetic oils are a marvel of modern science. Oil doesn't just lubricate, it cools, cleans, suspends, particulates, and protects your engine. Full synthetics can last 5,000 miles or even more, and that's not just snake oil marketing, and it's certainly not some manufacturer conspiracy. That's what the people who built your engine decided and made sure to put in the owner's manual. But unfortunately, nobody reads their manual because it doesn't have memes or hot waifu chicks in it. Unreasonably short oil change intervals are a myth perpetuated by the overly cautious. On the other end of the spectrum are the overly cavalier amateur mechanics who say oil is oil with no consideration for the fact that a vast majority of the time, motorcycles do require some motorcycle engine oil in them. If a guy with a huge beer belly wearing Crocs actively wiping sweat from his face with an oil-stained shop rag says to you, "Oh, grow up, man, oil's oil, just throw whatever you got in there and call it a day. You need to call your mom to come pick you up." By that logic, you can use windshield wiper fluid in your radiator. Nothing like dealing with a slipping clutch or excessive engine wear to save a couple bucks per quart of oil, right? Many motorcycles rev to 10, 12, or 14,000 RPM or more. You know what doesn't rev to 14,000 RPM? A Toyota Corolla that uses 0W20. Motorcycles are not cars. Their engines are compact, run hotter, rev higher, and maybe the most critical part, many motorcycles use the same oil for both the engine lubrication and the transmission. Plus, they often have wet clutches that live in that same oil. Your bike's oil isn't just a slippery bath for pistons. It's cooling the engine, protecting precise components at 5-digit RPMs, handling clutch plate friction, and dealing with the stress of a motorcycle transmission. So, dumping in some generic oil made for a commuter car is like serving a MotoGP rider Red Bull from a mop bucket. Car engine oils contain friction modifiers that can ruin a motorcycle's clutch. Many automotive oils contain additives that reduce friction to improve fuel economy. That's great for your car's pistons, but terrible for your motorcycle's wet clutch, which relies on friction to transmit power. This is why you want motorcycle-specific oil. Again, just read the owner's manual and spend the few extra dollars per quart to get the right oil. You won't regret it. We all love a brutal cold start, right? Bro, it's so brutal. I can't even handle how brutal a motorcycle cold start is. Like, it's just brutal. You think of Sparta, you think of architecture. Brutal! But thanks to modern science and engineering, a motorcycle cold start doesn't last all that long, and your excessive warm-up idling is probably just doing more damage than good after a while and just wasting gas and fuel and all the other stuff in there. If you got a fuel-injected bike, you can literally start it, buckle your helmet, put on your gloves, and go. I don't understand these guys that are letting their Harley-Davidsons warm up for 10 minutes. Brother, you spent 40 grand on a road glide. I really, really hope it doesn't have a choke and a carburetor anymore. Gotta let her warm her up, son. You'll wreck the engine if you ride too soon. No, you won't. You literally won't. Unless you're riding a 2-stroke from 1982 or trying to kill time because your cardo won't pair or you're finding your favorite podcast. There's zero reason to sit there idling your bike as if it was built after the Berlin Wall fell. It means it's fuel injected. It has an ECU. It's more than capable of warming up as you ride. Just don't send the thing to the moon. A modern motorcycle is smarter than a majority of motorcyclists on Reddit, and it's capable of measuring engine temp, air temp, throttle position, and everything else needed to keep the air-to-fuel ratios in check, regardless of whether or not you have a cold engine. That's why after 30 to 60 seconds of idling, you're totally safe to just ride. Just take it easy for the first few minutes. Don't redline her to go wide open the minute you pull out of the driveway. Ride a little more gently, shift a little early, and let the engine come up to temp under light load, and it'll warm up completely fine and much more quickly than just letting it idle in neutral. Even old carbureted bikes, if tuned properly and in good running order, don't need a massively long idle period. Start it with the choke, ride with the choke for a few minutes until the engine is up to temp, and you're good to go. Excessive and unnecessary idling to warm your bike just wastes gas. It can foul plugs and actually doesn't allow your engine to warm evenly even if it's not under load. Plus, you're just wasting time. And since we're on that topic, every motorcycle rider born after the year 2000 seems to be of the belief that carbureted motorcycles are impossible to live with. This is sort of a drama queen type take from someone who spends more time yapping about bikes on the internet than riding or working on them. Yeah, don't buy a bike that's carbureted that has sat with old fuel in it for years and expect to just be able to refill the tank with fresh fuel and go ride. But similarly, a fuel-injected bike that's seen similar amounts of neglect isn't going to be a cakewalk either. Carburetors aren't impossible, they're just not foolproof, which is apparently enough to terrify an entire generation raised on Minecraft and brain rot. The idea here is that if your bike isn't fuel injected, you're basically stuck in a doomed relationship with a cool-blooded motorcycle that will never start in the morning, always need tweaking, and slowly ruin your life one carb rebuild at a time. People talk about owning a carbureted bike like it's some sort of cursed Greek tragedy. Most people who say carbs are awful have never even owned a bike with one, or they bought some $600 UJM project bike off of Facebook Marketplace. If you have a good running carbureted bike and you take care of it, it'll serve you just fine. I'm not saying that everyone should spend their time learning to rebuild a carburetor. That's a bit silly. That's just not the world we live in. But seeing a 17-year-old on the internet say that someone should never own a carb bike is a little ridiculous. If a motorcycle is old enough to still be carbureted, it will likely be due for some other maintenance items and repairs. It's not going to be the carb that leaves it unrideable, but the dry rotted tires, rusted chain, and fried stator. In case you forgot, the DRZ 400 has always been carbureted, and there's still plenty of those happily riding around with no issue. It's not the carb that makes the bike problematic, it's the general age, neglect, and lack of maintenance. Carbureted or fuel injection aside, no bike's gonna be happy if it never runs and isn't taken care of. People who lube their chain every 100 miles need to start seeing a therapist because there are clearly greater issues at play. Are your chain and sprocket made of aluminum foil? We've all encountered this person before. They roll up to the group ride with a bottle of Motul chain lube holstered to their hip like they're about to ride into a lawless town to seek justice, confront their past, and take down the corrupt squid in charge. They're out here wiping down their chain every 50 miles with surgical precision and going home and arguing on forums about proper application angles. Brother, it's a chain. You're not baking a souffle for Gordon Ramsay during the season finale of MasterChef. Unless you're riding through a sandstorm or using your bike as a submarine, you really don't need to scrub, clean, inspect, relube, and ritualistically bless your chain every time you park it. Yes, your chain needs some love, but not every 100 miles and definitely not every time you ride. O-ring, X-ring, and Z-ring chains are sealed chains. That means the grease is already inside of the rollers, sealed behind rubber rings. The chain lube you're applying is not to the inside, it's just protecting the outside from rust and keeping the O-ring supple. Clean your chain when it's visibly dirty, like it's mud-caked or after a ride in some pretty serious rain. Not just because you rode through a puddle or because someone online tried to guilt trip you into being overly cautious about chain maintenance. Here's some insider info, those people are usually trying to sell you something. Lube it every like 400 to 600 miles of normal street riding or after riding in wet conditions. Use chain-specific cleaner and lube, and of course check your chain tension every so often as well. That's actually more important than lubing it, to be honest, and people seem to neglect that as well. If it's too tight, it can prematurely wear your sprockets, cause extra stress on the engine or transmission, or break entirely. And if it's too loose, it could jump a tooth and lock up the wheel, reduce power, and make a lot of noise banging around and just cause a bad time. Remember, tight chains are worse than loose chains, so keep that in mind. Of course, I'm not encouraging anyone to neglect their chain entirely, but obsessively cleaning and lubing it without just cause is for people who are bored or incredibly neurotic. You could also make the case that chains are wear items, and honestly, you don't even really need to clean them all that much. I think it's totally fine, and if they wear out, just get a new set. It's just like it doesn't matter that much. Thanks for making it to the end of the video today. If you're new to riding and sick of the unsubstantiated false claims made by motorcyclists in different online communities and you're constantly scrolling, consider becoming a member at yammynoob.co. Our exclusive Discord server is full of big-brained, experienced, real people motorcyclists who have no interest in selling you anything or trying to force their antiquated boomer opinions on you. Just altruistic advice for the betterment of the community. And they're real people. You know how much of the internet's just bots and AI talking to each other? Reddit is a cesspool. Leave that place behind. Plus, there's behind-the-scenes looks, racing news, adventure boys, memes, and all sorts of good time. So head over to yammynoob.co, become a member, and check it out today. It's one of the things I'm most proud of here on the channel. Thank you for watching. I'll catch you later. Fact: cicada swarms can cook predators alive. In rare cases, their sheer numbers and body heat have overwhelmed and killed attackers like praying mantises. Remember, there's power in numbers. Goodbye.
Oh, I love being here inside of the warm embryonic fluid of Valentino Rossi. Me and him just sharing foods together. Maybe he's gonna eat some pizza or some pasta here in the hills of Tavullia. But you know where else it's nice and warm and cozy is this next episode of Yammy Noob you can click on right over here. I'd love for you to watch it. But anyways, I'm gonna stay here hanging out. Me and him might go onto the track later, but I'll catch you guys later.